with the forces in Iraq that were trying to destroy American troops. This group of people are literally trying to destroy the United States of America. They are trying to take away every one of our political freedoms. And when Benjamin Franklin said, "You have a republic if you can keep it," this is the stuff even worse than he could have imagined that you have to deal with to keep it.
Jim, why don't our Republicans in Congress, in the Senate, and even this governor of Oklahoma, why don't they understand that?
Because they're wimps. They're weak. They're politicians who are desirous to keep a position or gain a position. They love the prestige of it, and for all of Thomas Massey's negatives that people talk about and haven't worked with him, he always talked about that congressional pin that members wear. He called it "my precious." Why? Because these people turn into Gollum when they get the position. They get the prestige. Everyone treats them all nice, and they change from this idealistic thing that they claimed that they were going to propose. Like Donald Trump is a rare politician who actually does not turn into Gollum when all of the accoutrements of power come his way and the accoutrements of any kind of prestige. That's the model. These people don't like that because it's a very uncomfortable place to be. It's truly uncomfortable, and they really like keeping their position, and they need their position more in their minds than a guy like Donald Trump does, who really comes at it the right way, the way that every person who gets elected should.
So we're sending Homan there. They relieved Bovino of his command. I don't think he was fired, but they relieved him of his command of Border Patrol. So he's not there. They shipped him out yesterday. They shipped Tom Homan in. Kristi Noem called them a domestic terrorist. He called the deceased a domestic terrorist. I happen to agree with that statement. I think the guy was a domestic terrorist. So was Renee Good, and so are a lot of the people that are in there. So I happen to agree with that, and I agree with Stephen Miller. Yesterday at the press briefing, here's what I was confused about. Caroline Leavitt, 27 years old, pregnant, didn't back down. I mean, she was as tough in that press conference as I've ever seen her. And then an hour later, it looks like we're negotiating a surrender. I'm not saying we're doing that, but that's the appearance of it. And there was 3 conditions laid out. None of them have been met. So they've all got to get met. I've already explained what they are. They have to get met for any kind of a reduction there. But my biggest concern, Jim, is that it is further dispiriting the Trump base who did not turn out in 25. This is reality. They didn't turn out. They didn't turn out in New Jersey. They didn't turn out in Virginia. They didn't turn out. Now, you can give it all kinds of answers for it, but they didn't come. And my fear is this happens again in the midterms. What say you? What do we have to do to get our base back fired up?
Well, we need Republicans to do something really good in the reconciliation bill. Honestly, when it comes to the midterms, the number one problem is not what Donald Trump's doing with immigration. Like I've said earlier, it's risky, there are things, but that's not Americans' problems. The polls still show that Americans want criminal illegals out of this country. So that's not our base problem. Our base problem is these idiots on Capitol Hill that keep pushing earmarks and frankly allow Democrats to have their earmarks. Like, I have to say, they should have totally shut Democrats out of that process, let them, and by also not taking earmarks themselves, and then make it clean again, move it through, get on to reconciliation. If I will say this, if the Republican Party adopts what I like very much about the Republican Study Committee approach to the reconciliation bill, which they do, and I was just asking their folks yesterday, the number of executive orders that they plan to codify through it, that's a major part of the proposal. I mean, that would do so much for the Trump voter from 2024 who'd like to know what's really going on. That kind of stuff should be the focus. But I have to say, if they pull back, and I have confidence that they're not pulling back completely because Tom Homan's going up there. I have a lot of confidence in Tom Homan. I don't have a lot of confidence in Kristi Noem or Corey Lewandowski. Corey, including Corey, with whom I was an Americans for Prosperity state director together with. Like I've known Corey for a lot of years. There is a sense, it was reported recently, and I think it's true, that some of the CBP agents and ICE agents are trying to tell them, as they're aggressively and rightly so trying to press the president's agenda, they also want to do things the right way. And you can be too wimpy in wanting to do things the right way because you can talk yourself into not taking action, but you can also be too aggressive and have problems. Now, I'm not trying to claim that the Alex Preddy or Renee Good murders are directly because of that. But what I'm saying is you always want to do it the right way and as aggressive as possible. Tom Homan's the guy that totally understands that. And that's the guy I'd be looking to direction to. I wouldn't be looking to Kristi, Noem, or Corey Lewandowski to figure out what that is. So that's also a little bit of a thing possibly happening in the background. But Donald Trump's right on this. I really think he's got a bead on it and is going to take the right steps necessary. Don't forget, this guy that let Venezuela play its little game for a little bit and then suddenly took action can also do the same thing here too. That's the part I probably agree with Matt Boyle on, is that ultimately Donald Trump is going to make the right decision. I really believe that. But you don't want to dispirit your supporters unnecessarily by acting too weakly. And in this case, like if it's Gavin Newsom or Kathy Hochul, okay, maybe it's not the same thing. Tim Walz and Jacob Frey are at war with the United States, period. That's what's going on here. And there needs to be aggressive action continued in Minneapolis, because that's the central part of the war right now. This stuff ain't happening around the country right now. It's all happening in Minneapolis. Stay on it, stay focused, drop them here so that you can make sure that people will not, be able to do this again in the future. And by the way, there's a criminal conspiracy here. And Kash Patel, after he said this stupid Second Amendment thing over the weekend, which just really kind of blew my mind.
What was that? Remind our viewers what that was, Jim.
So he said you shouldn't be bringing a gun to a rally. And I'm sitting here saying, what are you talking about? I can bring my gun anywhere I want. I got the Second Amendment. What you cannot do is take criminal action with your gun, and you cannot bring a gun to criminal behaviors. And if you get caught up in criminal behavior that you're undertaking and you have your gun, then you've got a problem with your gun. But just to say you can't take your gun to a rally, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The Second Amendment's very clear on that. The Second Amendment is my permit, right? So, but after making that statement, which he clarified yesterday, he also did make the assertion that they do know where the money trail is on all this, with all the stuff that Cam Higbee is reporting, the Signal chat and so forth like that. And my national field director, Chad Caton, and Cam were in Ohio together, exposing a lot of the Somali stuff that was taking place there. But Cam revealed that, and Kash says that they've got the money trail. Well, if they do, they need to aggressively go after that. Legally, you need to do that because there is a criminal conspiracy here. You've got money flowing into the effort. You've got coordination that's being funded and undertaken by people ostensibly being paid by the effort. Whatever the direct payments are, even if you have willing conspirators, you still have a criminal conspiracy because they're trying to thwart law enforcement, which is a criminal act. As law enforcement is attempting to undertake upholding the laws, which they are duty bound to do. Everything that Donald Trump's doing on immigration, even knowing that there might be mistakes here and there and some ICE officer acts in a way that's inappropriate, even amongst all that, Donald Trump is duty bound to do what he's doing on immigration. So was Joe Biden, except that we know that was a conspiratorial effort to overthrow this country because they ignored the law that was obvious. This is the stuff we've got to keep repeating. This is what Donald Trump needs to be acting upon. And he is. And I have a lot of faith in Donald Trump. But I just want to be cautious. Don't back away. Stick with it, because that's the only way you break through a tough situation.
888-480, John, you want to weigh in? 888-480-5646. We're in lockstep here. You cannot back away, because the fear is if this is somehow spun by the left and the communists that the mob won, right? You're never going to stop this, ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. Any place you go, the flash mob shows up, $600 a day. They'll get more funding than ever. You fund things when you have a victory. They'll get more funding than ever, wherever it comes from, Soros, etc., CCP, and you'll never be able to carry anything out. The next thing they're going to do is go to Maine and stop that, right? Then you try to go to, I was saying this earlier, Jim, pick any city, right? You try to go to, Charlotte, North Carolina. They'll throw the mob in there. And then they'll stop that, because getting rid of these illegals are getting rid of their power base. Is that not what this is really about?
Yeah, it is. Let me just go back to David Petraeus for a minute. The counterinsurgency manual that he put together was a process by which you take out the key factors that the insurgents were able to take advantage of when they were killing American troops. And you need a counterinsurgency effort here, which requires exactly what you're talking about, John. You stick with it, and which is actually doing, and I'm still waiting to see if it happens, but doing what Kash Patel said that they're doing. If they know where the money is, then pull the trigger, get the grand juries going, start perp walking people.
That's what they got to do. All right, let's get to a caller. Tony in North Carolina, line 1. Tony, you're live with John and Jim. Tony, you're live. Go ahead, Tony. All right, we don't have Tony. Thank you. All right. Look, Jim, end of the day, you can't back down here. And however this is spun, and whatever deal we make, if it appears that the mobs won, this thing is just going to go on, and there's no end in sight. I mean, you got to take your stand. You got to take, as somebody was on earlier that said you have to draw a line in the sand like the Alamo. I think they're entirely accurate there. You got to just draw a line in the sand. And I don't know if it's a red line or whatever, but you just can't go over it, Jim. And Jim Pfaff, I want to thank you for being with us. Now, I've got an event coming up for our campaign. John McGuire is going to be there. It is on Thursday, February 5th, 5:30 to 8 at Bobby Vance. They're right by the White House where you were last time. I told John McGuire you were definitely coming, so you have to be there.
Oh, okay. I know that something's coming up soon, but I think 5th is open. So, but I was sitting here saying, "Where's my freaking invitation?" As I hear John.
I'm going to send as soon as I get to the 9 o'clock hour, but it's contingent on bringing your wife Myra.
Well, as you know, that is always the best part of any party that's taken place.
Exactly. It's like, we're inviting you, but we really want her to come.
I always tell people, I think people like me may be okay, but they love Myra.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you're okay. I got no problem with you, but we all want Myra to come. She's always the life of the party. So
yes.
Let's get him out. We're going to send you the invite at the 9 o'clock hour. Jim, it's always good to have you on, buddy. Thanks for being with us, Jim Pfaff. People want to follow you. Where do they go?
ConservativeCaucus.com. TheConservativeCaucus.com.